He did.
All right, welcome back to the channel, and today's video we're going to be covering, unfortunately, the Patriots and the Jets. It was not a good week. It was not a good day. Everything went wrong. I went into this game thinking, yeah, the Jets are probably going to win, but I also thought that we could definitely have a chance in this one, given how good our defense has been to start out the season. Now, last week were some hiccups, and I talked about that last week. Our secondary definitely got exposed last week, but I thought we'd be able to fix that up coming into this week. We always play the Jets pretty well. We've only lost one game to them in the last, 20. And this game just was a full team loss. There is not much I can say that is positive about this team after this game. Demario Douglas had a nice game, as a kind of a slot receiver, a lot of underneath throws to him. He had, an okay game. But outside of that, in terms of the defense, I want to talk about them first because they were the thing that disappointed me the most. Defense, regardless of where the team has been at, has always been the rock of the team. And this was probably the worst game I've seen this defense play in a number of years. From missed tackles to not staying fundamentally sound, whether that's holding your gap, whether it's not letting Aaron Rodgers get out of the pocket, whether that's, not doing stupid penalties like hitting the quarterback after the play, or just whatever you could think of for the defense went wrong today. And it's on the whole defense. It's not on one specific person. It's not on a couple people. It's everybody, right? Christian Gonzalez, I'd say one of our top players on defense. He wasn't particularly good in this game. Jonathan Jones wasn't particularly good in this game. Our entire, front seven was pretty bad. Majority of this game. Juwan Bentley was out in this game, and that seems to have a big impact based upon the playing of this team. Just nobody was tackling. We made Allen Lazard look like a Pro Bowl wide receiver. And it's Allen Lazard. Nobody wanted him besides the Jets, and that's just because Aaron Rodgers was there and somebody that's familiar with him, right? It's Aaron Rodgers making Allen Lazard better. And, as much as I want to say, yeah, Aaron Rodgers was great today, right? He was. But the Patriots didn't make it hard on him at all. The first couple drives, Aaron Rodgers basically didn't throw a pass more than 5 yards down the field. All he had to do was just check it down to somebody, and our guys in space were just not making tackles. In the running game, we were all right at times. You look at this stat, 33 rushes, 133 yards, but that's only, 4 yards a carry. But this should never have gotten to that many yards. They showed a stat close to the end of the game where we had 13 or 14 missed tackles that led to over 100 yards of offense. That is insane. Given that the one thing that the Patriots defense has always been good at has been fundamental football, this is a question I posed with my preview of this team. Will this defense start to decline now that Bill Belichick has gone? One of the greatest, if not the greatest defensive mind of all time. And, in the first, week, maybe week 2 as well, you didn't see too much of that. This game, it was glaringly obvious that this team they were not all on the same page. I don't know what was going on, but we've got to fix a lot of stuff there because if this defense is going to play this badly, it's going to be an ugly season for New England. And that's the other thing with the offense. I did not expect the offense to be particularly good in this game, to be honest, but I expected them to come out with at least, some sort of fight. Have some sort of game plan, and I just don't know what the Patriots' game plan was today at all. And, you could say, okay, the Jets' pass rush dominated this game. And it did, right? The blitzes, their front four. They could get pressure on our quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, within, 2 seconds. 2 seconds, you had guys already in his face. There was just no protection for Jacoby Brissett the entire game. And what's even more interesting to me is the fact that we decided to throw Drake Maye in at the very end of this game when the Jets' defense, and they're not going to take out their defense, has been insane the entire game. Could you not have made a worse decision? And, Drake Maye was pretty mixed in his first drive. But the fact that you put him in there when our offensive line looked that bad, our wide receivers were not getting open. We had no offense to speak of. And you just threw him into the deep end, I thought was a jarring decision. But when you take a look at what this team did overall, the entire game, Jacoby Brissett, this game's not on him, in my opinion. Yes, he missed a throw or two in this game early on that maybe would have made a little bit of a difference. I don't know how much, but again, maybe it could have been different. But this offensive line, and I know Caden Wallace, it's his first game starting, right? He was genuinely horrible. And, I get it. He hasn't had the most time, trying to learn the position. But if that's the case, right, and if you're the Patriots and you know that going into the game, you would think that you would have a lot of, tight end help or running back helping him. They basically left him on an island the entire game. And every time Jacoby Brissett dropped back, it was obvious. Like, there was a drive that they had in the second half where Caden Wallace got called on 2 holding penalties in a row. He just was bear hugging for his life. When you see that much, like that player struggling so much, how is it that there's so many times where we were going shotgun, no help was being given, not even a nudge, right? One thing the 49ers do great with George Kittle is they use him to block, but also to receive, right? It's not just he's blocking a whole play, but he'll nudge, and then he'll go out and, he'll do his pattern, whatever. We just did not do that at all. I don't know if that's just foreign. The Patriots don't know what that means. They just did not help. They just did not help a young, struggling left tackle the entire game. And you think it would just be the young players, right? Some of our young guys coming in. It's not. This was Mike Owene, who was terrible in this game. He was getting beaten on the right side of our offensive line consistently. David Andrews wasn't particularly good in this game. The whole offensive line was terrible. The wide receivers, for the most part, weren't getting open, and there wasn't even time to really develop, routes down the field. I mean, for a bulk majority of this game, the referees gave us more yards with penalties than we actually had as an offense. That's how bad it was. Couldn't really run the ball, and part of that is because, 1, we were down from the very beginning of the game because the defense was horrible, and 2, we just really couldn't run really in general. I mean, if you look at the end of the game stats, 78 yards for 5.2, 5.2 a carry. A lot of that came at the very end when Drake Maye came in. There was a lot of HB draws that were going to Gibson. That's where most of that come from. But Ramondre Stevenson, 23 yards on the ground and 6 carries and put the ball on the ground. So there was no facet of the offense that was clicking. There was no facet of the defense that was clicking. Special teams was pretty hit or miss in this game. There was some missed tackles even on special teams and returns. Just a bad overall game. And what scares me is, you think about this team, is I think this was not a very winnable game, but this was, there was a chance, right, that this Patriot team could come into, the Jet Stadium and could have won this game, right? If they played fundamental football, they've done what they've done in the past. And I wanted to show you guys their upcoming schedule because it doesn't get prettier, right? It just doesn't. And the one thing I find is even weirder is, the Jets' offense hasn't been particularly good this season up until this game with the Patriots. Last week with the Titans, it was a pretty offensive performance from Aaron Rodgers. And then even in the first game against the 49ers, they got dominated, which, again, I don't blame them for. But it's telling that the Patriots, they go against, that Aaron Rodgers goes against the Patriots defense, and that's kind of what sets him up. And the thing is, and I talked about it already with the defense, we just made it easy on him, right? Gave him way too many easy throws where a bunch of yards after catch. We didn't even make Aaron Rodgers have to truly beat us. He took step 1 and beat us. But the Patriots schedule going forward, you got the 49ers. That's going to be a nightmare. If you think the Jets are going to be good at getting to the quarterback, you got another thing coming with the 49ers. And the 49ers, I think, are a better defense than the Jets. So that game is going to be probably a blowout. There's no way we're going to be able to score on 49ers defense. Maybe our defense will be better against 49ers offense. Who knows? We have the Dolphins. Tua is out as of right now. Who knows when he's going to return? But if, Skylar Thompson is still the quarterback in that game, definitely a chance to win that one, especially because we're at home. Playing the Texans after that, that's another tough team to play. Danielle Hunter and Anderson Jr. on the sides of the Texans, that's going to be tough. It just doesn't get easier, right? You play the Jets again in a couple of weeks. This is what I talked about when I talked about the Patriots preview. Is this is a very difficult first 8 to 10 games, and it does maybe get a little bit easier in the back end of the schedule, but tough schedule for New England. And so if you're a Patriots fan, the question's got to come up: when does Drake Maye get the start in New England? And the weirdest thing is, I don't think Drake Maye starting will help this team at all, because there's just nothing really going for you that says, oh yeah, bring in another quarterback. That's the problem with the team. right? So, like, for instance, the Bears, like last year, they had weapons. They had pieces there that if a good quarterback was in there, there's a possibility that they could have been much better, right? Because the weapons were already there. And so that's why Caleb Williams going there, that's why it's kind of underwhelming because he has so many weapons to deal with. What does Drake Maye have to go with? Ramondre Stevenson, who's been good to the start of the season, but, that's really our only thing we have going. No offensive weapons outside of Hunter Henry, usually in the red zone, and sometimes Demario Douglas underneath. Like, the offensive line is a complete disaster right now. It's by far worse than it was last year. I mean, this offensive line is not competent at all. Maybe run blocking they are, but, I mean, pass blocking, they just got exposed. Everybody on that offensive line got exposed. There was free rushers. Felt like every time they blitzed, seems like this offensive line was not coordinated together at all. And whether it's on Brissett or David Andrews for trying to set the protections, it was terrible. So that is my review of the Patriots game. It was a pretty humbling experience. I was somebody that kind of was a bit negative on the win in week 1 and in last week's, loss. But this kind of just proved it. I mean, this team is not good. They don't have much on offense, especially. I think I'm more disappointed by the performance by the defense than I am what the offense did, which is the craziest part to me because the offense had like a historically bad day. But I think this game, I was way more shocked by the defensive performance. But let me know if you're a Patriots fan or you're not a Patriots fan. Well, let me know what you thought about the game. Unfortunately, the Thursday night games kind of being stinkers seems to be continuing. But I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.